Okay, so I've avoided watching this video for 3 months at this point, but I guess it's time. Man, this is gonna be a tough one. Hello everyone, GeneralApple here, and in case you don't know me, I'm a former Legends of Runeterra Masters player. I played this game for many years, and I enjoyed it so much that I've decided to make this YouTube channel and try to become a content creator for the game. And eventually, as you already know, Legends of Runeterra PvP section has been shut down, and I was thrown into the abyss. And pretty much from that day onward, I was trying to claw my way out of that. I think I recovered pretty nicely, but I'm not gonna lie, I still miss this game a lot. I think about it pretty much all the time. I love card games to death, and Legends of Runeterra was the best of them. So that's why I was kind of avoiding seeing this video. But I really want to react to that and give it my own take. I mean, I'm assuming it's gonna talk about everything that happened with Legends of Runeterra, so I'm kind of excited for that and see the perspective on this and, you know, give my own point of view on it. So yeah, if you end up enjoying this type of video, make sure to check out my other content. And if you enjoy that, consider leaving a like and subscribe for more. But with that all out of the way, let's just dive right into the video, shall we?
League of Legends is a MOBA loved around the world.
True.
Riot Games has given the game incredible dev support, art direction, and unique characters. So how about a spin-off? A card game with your favorite champions, cheap to get into, and with lore to support League's Runeterra
Very
world.
cheap.
It happened, and it's called Legends of Runeterra, a game that technically did everything right, but still failed. This is how Legends of Runeterra became
so
Riot
good?
Games' biggest failure.
Oh god.
So before Hearthstone even came out, I knew that Riot Games was making a card game. The codename for the game was Bacon. My name is Travis Gafford. I have been covering esports and Riot Games for the past, I guess, 13 years now. And I am an avid card game player. I've played many TCGs over the years, mostly digital. But what happened was that Riot Games, as they were growing, as League was requiring more resources, and as they just were trying to figure out how to release another game, and I think chasing this obsession with, well, whatever game we need to come out with next also needs to be, you know, genre defining, the same way that League of Legends was.
Yeah.
I think it really...
League of Legends wasn't really genre defining. They took an already existing very successful mod, which is Dota, and just, you know, gave it their own spin. I guess you can call it like elevation, but some people, well, you know, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm biased here. I played Dota for 7 years or a bit over that. Like, I'm a former Dota 2 addict, so, you know, I'm biased. I think Dota is like way superior to League of Legends, but hey, that's just me. I guess it's just point of view thing, right? So I'm not gonna go too deep into that. I don't want to get roasted.
slowed
But still
down
roast me if you feel like I'm wrong.
on this game, and it took them, I don't know, I mean, I heard about it in 2013 or 2012 maybe even. When this released in 2020, I guess it had been probably 8 or so years of development that at least I was aware of. And during that time, Hearthstone released.
Some have speculated that Riot wanted to wait out Hearthstone's momentum and learn from Blizzard's entry into TCGs. But it's
Learn from Blizzard mistakes. Not entry. Yeah, Hearthstone. So I played Hearthstone, in case you don't know. I played Hearthstone since release. Well, not exact release, like a few months after release. I played before the first expansion hit. So, I don't know, like a month after release or something like that. Yeah, the game was good. Back in vanilla, I think the game was absolutely fire. It was really great. But as time went on, the game became like worse and worse. The design was really bad, and even Ben Brode ended up, like, you know, leaving the company and opening up his own company, which ended up making Marvel Snap, which I still play to this day. And by the way, like, don't play Marvel Snap. It's not a good game. I'm just addicted because I have a day job and I have to play something.
It seems like they waited too long. By the time that they eventually released the game, it seemed like people were either tired of the genre or already too invested into a card game to switch. If you've put hundreds of dollars and hours learning the meta and building your collection in Hearthstone, Shadowverse, or MTG Arena, you wouldn't have much incentive to swap over to a brand new game.
Exactly. So all the card games are super expensive, like literally each and every one of them. I guess the most fair one outside of Legends of Runeterra obviously is Magic the Gathering one, which you get a 1-to-5 ratio, where in real life you can buy 1 pack, but in the digital card game you can buy 5 for the exact same amount. So that is kind of neat. That being said, you still drop a ton of money to get all the cards in this game. You have to drop a lot of money to get it.
And I think by the
I
time
believe it's like $1K for a full expansion. I might be wrong about this, but I believe that's the calculation.
Legends of
Around
Runeterra
that.
came out, a lot of people, including folks like myself, were already kind of burnt out on this type of experience. It's
Yeah.
similar to the World of Warcraft situation, where it's very difficult for other MMOs to succeed in the space because WoW just has such a huge head start that anything that comes out later, you're kind of like, well, why would I play this over WoW? Or
Well, not really true. World of Warcraft is in a really bad spot, and nobody really plays this game anymore outside of people that lost every single hair on the top of their head, and they're too invested to just leave. Most people don't play WoW anymore. It's just that World of Warcraft Classic has put such a high standard on MMOs that nobody really reached that standard. Whenever I played, whenever I played World of Warcraft Classic when it was re-released just a few years ago, man, it was the best thing I've ever played. It was the best game I've ever played, like straight up. No MMO has ever reached this point, and I don't know if any MMO will ever will. People just have very high expectations when it comes to MMO, and MMO, unfortunately, are the worst game to develop because they cost the most amount of money, and yeah, you don't get that much return on investment. Depend on the MMO, right? But still,
I've already played enough.
it's a lot of
I
effort.
don't really feel like I want to play another MMO.
With all that being said, Riot seemed to be up for the challenge and was prepared to invest heavily into the game, even launching a high-production cinematic produced
It
by
was
the
so
French
beautiful.
studio
It was
Unit
so
Image,
good.
the same team behind League of Legends, The Call, and the Baldur's Gate 3 intro.
Oh,
The
really?
trailer looks like a series of oil paintings, and while it featured no gameplay, it set
It
the
was
tone
so
for
good.
what Legends of Runeterra was going to be.
Heavy
Serious
story
card
driven.
game with a ton of support backing it. Legends of Runeterra was, and still is, a lore lover's dream. The game
Yes.
includes all 10 major regions in the League of Legends world, and each of these regions include all the recognizable champions from the MOBA. More interestingly though, these would also include a whole bunch of new characters never before seen that you get to play with. This was a huge deal for fans of League.
Yeah, exactly. The lore of lore. It was so good, dude. It was so oh man, we had everything and we took it for granted. The crazy amount of lore. I read the lore of every single card in this game. It was so good. The art was beautiful. Man, it was perfect. I want to cry, man. Like, it was so good.
Lore who wanted to dig into the world of the game further. The abilities of champions old and new would reflect their MOBA counterparts.
Yep.
So even if you had a cursory knowledge of League, you could still appreciate the consistency between games. All of this was presented through incredibly smooth animations, beautiful expandable art for every card, and attractive cosmetics as in-game purchases. Speaking of, all of the in-game purchases were completely optional. The game had an innate way for you to receive the exact types of cards you wanted just by playing the game. On
Yes.
release, you could pick a faction like the Shadow Isles, and then passively unlock those types of cards when you play any game. Additionally, many things rewarded wild cards, a system that lets you get whatever card you wanted given it was the same rarity as the wild card. Rewards always felt plentiful, and never drip-fed, and there was always a clear, relatively easy path to make your next deck. This
Yes.
system was
You could have literally made a new deck every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks of playing the game, you would have just maximized your chest. Chest is the system that you get the cards from. For the most part, most of the cards from. You obviously have like the, like the track reward system. But for the most part, you would have gotten your cards from chest. And if you maximized your chest, which was extremely easy, all you had to do is just do your daily quest and that's pretty much it. Man, you would have gotten a ton of cards. And wild cards at that. So you can make whatever deck you wanted to make in like 2 weeks. That is insane. That was way too generous. It was crazy. You didn't need to drop a dime on this game to get the decks that you like.
objectively incredibly generous. Mark Merrill, CFO and co-founder of Riot, talked about it during a State of the Game update earlier in 2024.
Part of the the thesis and opportunity that really excited us as players was the fact that, in a lot of CCGs, one of the things we all love to do was build decks. And so we wanted to have a business model that was incredibly generous to players, that enabled people to have a lot of cards to then get into that fun experimentation and not feel like I've got to go spend hundreds of dollars in order to go get the cards, even build the
And
decks
they did
and
just
figure
that.
out,
Let people try it. Things like
yeah.
that.
This incredibly generous business model put players first in a way that no other mass-market digital card games were doing at the time. Instead of needing to spend hundreds of dollars when a new set comes out, just continuing to play the game more would earn those cards as a reward for playing. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal, right? Players get the cards they want so they can get deck building right away. No more opening card packs letting RNG determine what decks you can and can't build. But here is the possible mistake Riot made.
They actually deleted, I believe it was Grappler that said this. He was a really popular Legends of Runeterra streamer before the game, like, PvP shut it down. He said a thing that made a lot of people rage at the time, but as we seen in the future, he was right, like 100%. He said that Riot did a really great thing by making an insanely good card game, but they made the worst decision ever, deciding to leave the packs out of it, like the card packs aspect out of it, because people like the dopamine rush of having their packs open and getting certain cards from it, whether it's good or bad. They just love the adrenaline rush you get from opening packs of, oh, maybe I'll have like this cool mythic out of it, like maybe I'll get the card that I need. It's so crazy. Like, they took this really fun aspect of collecting cards and just said, well, we don't need it. We don't need it. We'll just focus on the gameplay. People will love the gameplay, and that will get people to purchase, I guess, in-game cosmetics. And as we know, this wasn't the case.
They didn't realize that, although perhaps predatory, there is a reason that business model has been a part of trading card games since the start. The
Yes.
nature of packs, loot boxes, gacha, or whatever you want to call it, brings people in and makes them stick around for more.
Yeah. Oh, this is such a classic. Oh my god.
Not only do players like it, but viewers like it as well. Many games similar and dissimilar that have these mechanics gain a ton of viewership from streamers opening packs or trying to high roll for a rare cosmetic. Removing those aspects, regardless of what they do to the industry or a player's psyche, was Riot effectively shooting themselves in the foot.
Now
Exactly.
imagine this.
Oh, there it is.
You make a card game
There
called
it is.
Legends of Runeterra, and you say, yeah, well, that addictive part, we could just cut it out. It's not necessary. We're just going to make a good game. Sure, they made a great game.
The
I
best
still
game.
think to this day, on the market, there's no better card game to play. The playing of Runeterra is amazing, but they have that entire addictive part of the game, which is freaking awesome and fun and exciting to collect cards, and they said we don't need it.
Riot tried to apply
Exactly,
the
and
Freaking awesome and
leave
fun
that
and exciting
aside.
to collect cards.
Look at the amount of shards he has. That is crazy. And by the way, I had the same amount of shards. Obviously, I had less than that because, you know, he played way more than I did. But look at this. And this is, by the way, like real life money. This is for skin. This is also real life money. This is what you spend on skins. You could get this for free. Like, you can literally get this for free. This is crazy. Like, this is insane. Like, this is absolutely crazy. You could have gotten this for free. I believe this one spent on skins. I mean, if I remember correctly, it's been a long time. But yeah. Oh no, you spend this on prismatics. Sorry, apologies. You would spend this on prismatics, which is like crazy, right? I mean, usually you get prismatics from packs, but in this game you could have just purchased it when you get this. So it's insane. Like, it's insane.
Cards, and they said
It
we
was
don't need
super
it.
generous.
Riot tried to apply the same business model that they had used with League of Legends. They created a free-to-play game that would survive and make money off of players purchasing non-gameplay impacting cosmetics. So naturally, they'd want to replicate the success of another League strategy, esports.
Yeah,
Blizzard had
esports.
tried to make esports work for Hearthstone, but despite modest success, it never really reached the heights that other mass-market esports
course.
did. But people thought that if it was anyone, it would be Riot to succeed where other developers failed. And
Well, while I understand why, you need to understand, card games, as much as I love card games to death, it's a niche market. It's a niche market, and not a lot of people are playing card games or want to get into card games because it's not what it used to be like 30 years ago when Magic the Gathering was super popular and board games and tabletops games in general were super popular. This is the digital age, and you're not gonna get a lot of people, especially in the free-to-play market, you're not gonna get a lot of people playing card games when you have super addictive games like Team Fight Tactics, you know, and League of Legends, obviously. So yeah, it's always gonna stay a niche market. I'm gonna be extremely surprised if card games will ever be mainstream. I highly doubt that will ever happen.
and actually build a thriving,
It's just the nature of the beast.
massively popular esports scene around a card game. However, Legends of Runeterra's player base never got large enough to successfully fan the flames of a thriving esports scene.
Of course.
Although they had multiple Worlds events and qualifiers, for one reason or another, these events were all held remotely and failed to reach the same viewership highs that games like League and Dota had.
Brother, do you really think someone will come to an arena and watch two people just sitting in a chair like doing like that? Nobody's ever gonna do that. Nobody's gonna ever gonna do that. Nothing happens with screen. Most of the things that happens in a card game are really obvious because card games are just RNG based game. I mean, you build your deck, true. There's a lot of skill aspect that go into that, but at certain level, it doesn't matter. It just comes down to RNG. That's pretty much it. Nobody really want to watch this. It's not as exciting as watching like 5 people versus 5 people just shooting each other, trying to outplay and outmaneuver one another. Even if you compare this to another 1v1 game like StarCraft, dude, you have like 10 million clicks per second, okay? Like people like literally going like it's insane. Like it's super exciting. It gets you pumped up. But card games aren't like that. They're not esport material. It is what it is, man. It's nature of the beast.
Despite all of Riot's best efforts, they couldn't solve the big issue that plagues TCG viewership: the barrier of entry to watch and understand what's going on.
Also
Card games
this,
are
yeah,
hard to
this is
spectate
also
for a
true.
casual player who doesn't have the requisite game knowledge of each card and their abilities. Anything exciting that does happen requires a ton of information to really fully appreciate, which is
Well, again, partially true. I mean, yeah, if you're watching a game like CSGO, yeah, you don't need a lot of information. It's just a bunch of guys shooting each other. Yeah, you can still watch this and have a lot of fun. That being said, Dota 2 is one of the most popular esports ever. I don't know what the situation right now, but at the time when I played like Dota 2, like a few years back, it was the most popular esport. And yeah, I mean, you need a lot of knowledge. If you watch Dota 2 without any knowledge, you're not gonna understand what the hell is going on. So I don't think it's really true. But in card game, I guess that feeling is amplified because you really need to know what the cards are doing, and you're not really seeing the cards on screen when you play. So if you come from an outside perspective, you can't really figure out on your own what each card is doing.
just
So I
something that
understand
other popular esports usually don't have problems with. So in the end, only Runeterra players watched Runeterra tournaments, and the ceiling for viewership and esports growth became capped from the start.
Yeah.
This all leads us to the State of the Game 2024, in which Riot announced that they would be ending support for competitive PvP in Legends of Runeterra. In early 2024, Riot was downsizing. They had a massive wave of layoffs and even ended support for their Riot Forge projects. Their
Yeah.
goal was to focus all of their funding and effort on titles that they knew would be successful and that they believed should be prioritized.
Cash money,
Legends
baby.
of Runeterra did not meet the criteria.
But we could sort of, never really get the formula right. We were always spending a lot more money investing in the game and supporting the community than the game was bringing in, and so essentially being subsidized by our other products. So we tried a lot of things over the last couple of years to, figure out how to grow the audience.
But they never did the right things. I mean, the right thing was to make the game pack-based. Like, you need to put cards into packs. But I understand that at this point, it would have just made the community mad. And the people already invested, like, really mad. But you had to make a drastic change to actually have a chance of succeeding. Because right now, you were, like he said, they were spending way more money than they were earning. And this game was is a losing battle. Like it was just a dying game. You need to make a drastic change, and you didn't.
And what
Which
was
is unfortunate.
players, and so we sort of reached a point where we had to make some changes to try to get to a place of sustainability because players have been so committed to this game, and we know some
Exactly.
people love the game that we want to keep finding a way to deliver this awesome game that people love.
Riot decided to take their support of the game and fully focus it more on the PvE side. They claimed that most of the player base was actually playing PvE, so they believed the best thing to do would be to develop the parts of the game that players love the most. This meant, though, that support for things like esports ended immediately. In the Q&A that was released along with the State of the Game, Riot stated that, "For now, competitive PvP will be put into hibernation. This includes gauntlets, ranked season rewards, tournaments such as the Runeterra Open System, Worlds, and esports holistically. However, we will keep casual, standard, eternal, and versus AI open indefinitely. Ranked, standard, and eternal will continue, but in a different structure than today that we'll be figuring out soon. With the sweeping changes to Riot and Legends of Runeterra, it will take us some time to figure out what we can do with those formats, and we'll update you when we have more solid plans." So competitive support ended for Legends of Runeterra. Despite seemingly doing everything right, this high-potential product appears to have failed. But why?
Well, here's the thing. They didn't do everything right. The game was on a very basic level at the 3 final expansions, or should I be more precise, whenever they got the Shurima expansion out, everything kind of went downhill, man. The game just wasn't as fun. The cards were really bad designed, they were poorly designed, and yeah, the champions weren't good, like they weren't fun. It was super toxic, and the gameplay itself wasn't that good, so people just ended up quitting. We should mention that.
Well,
well.
it's a nuanced combination of things. To start, their business model was too generous. While this might seem like an insane thing to say, if you ask most regulars of the game, there would be an agreement that Runeterra provided one of the friendliest systems in TCGs, beyond just giving everyone every card. You can have a big discussion on TCGs and argue which part of a game that involves collectibles is the part that causes a player to keep coming back. But if you ask anybody that played trading card games, real or digital, what some of their favorite moments were with them, most of the time they would think to a rare pack pull, rather than a big outplay.
Yeah.
And then the other one is...
Oh, classic Black Lotus.
That's a freaking Black Lotus!
Maybe it was just bad timing. Maybe the genre just isn't big enough, or maybe it really was that Legends of Runeterra gave too much away and didn't give the players anything to chase.
It's all of those
Some speculate that the cosmetics didn't sell well enough also. But Travis argues that the lack of sales wasn't a core issue.
I think I would disagree with the idea that the problem is that people weren't buying these, because I don't know if people were buying them or not, but the problem was that there were not people to buy them. I think that the biggest issue Legends of Runeterra faced was a player-based issue.
Yeah.
Because TFT has stuck around, been a massive success, and eventually they figured out the monetization issue, or maybe they're still working on developing it. But like for a long time, TFT was like, I think you could buy some very basic cosmetics for it or whatever. But the game was so successful that there was never any doubt about whether or not Riot should continue to invest into it or like what the deal should be with it. On the other hand, you've had Legends of Runeterra where they were coming at it and building really cool cosmetics, but there were not people to purchase that.
One thing was for certain, not enough players were playing the game. While Legends of Runeterra had some great new ideas, it didn't present a radical departure from what TCGs are, so it likely struggled with bringing in new players to the genre. It was an incredible product for the niche of people who love League of Legends lore and great new card games, but at the end of the day, that wasn't enough.
That's not true. The problem is that people are just too invested in other games to quit to Legends of Runeterra. So even if Legends of Runeterra it's like a super free game, nobody's gonna really leave Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone where they're too deep. Like they're just too deep. They're just, you know, it is what it is, man. Card games are insanely difficult to just get out of once you're invested. Like it just, yeah, this reality, man.
For me, I hope that Riot realizes that they need to balance their desire to take a long time and be thoughtful about what a game could be, etc., with the need to move on a space before it starts to get stale. I love and find it so funny that TFT came out right around the same time as Legends of Runeterra and is massively successful. And so much so that I don't think Riot does a good job of even explaining how successful TFT is. I think the one time was when I interviewed John Needham and he said it was the biggest strategy game in the world. That was a game that was, you know, what's the Iron Man meme about, like, you know, Tony Stark built this in a cave or whatever?
Mort Dog was able to build this in a cave!
Like, that was essentially what TFT did while Project Bacon or Legends of Runeterra was
But again, you're comparing like potatoes and tomatoes, right? I mean, it's completely two different genres. You can't really compare them. Again, card games are super difficult to get into because you need to know all the cards and you need to know what they do to actually play effectively. And it took me, like in Hearthstone, I was a net decker. I wasn't even building my own decks because I didn't really know what to do. Whenever I played Runeterra, I started building my own decks. Not right away, obviously. I learned from other streamers and content creators. But eventually I got my own foot in the ground and I actually started to build my own decks. That being said, TFT is not that game. TFT is a game that constantly recycles and resets. And that's a very good thing because that means everyone has an equal playing ground whenever a new set comes around. So that means if you played like previous set and you learned how to play the game, yeah, obviously you're gonna be way better than a player that just started in a new set. But still, you're not gonna be that good over him. Yeah, you know the items, you already know like the basic stuff, how to position and stuff like that, but those things aren't difficult to grasp. I mean, new players can come to Teamfight Tactics and just learn the game in, you know, at least the basics in like a few games. It took me like a week to understand the characters and like 2 more weeks to understand the itemization and positioning. You know, it took me like a month, and I think that after a month of playing TFT, I became like insanely good at the game. Like I became insanely good at it, and that's the good thing about TFT. Yeah, it's just easy, really easy to get into. Unlike card games,
you know, 8 years or whatever to build. They were building that and basically immediately with sticks and duct tape in the League of Legends client when that genre took off. And they ended up owning and claiming that genre.
By the way, in case you don't know, TFT is also a Dota 2 mod. It's called Auto Chess. They just took that concept and made it way, way better. Which is, by the way, kudos to them. Like, that is a good thing.
When everybody else was trying to do the gold rush there.
So what is the current state of the game? Is it dead? Well, not really. The game has now shifted from
life
its
support.
PvP focus to more of a roguelike deck building game. But its systems were never a problem to start. Even if it wasn't your jam, the lore within is still as full as ever. And if anything, the game has plenty of story-rich elements for those interested in the setting. Hopefully, even with the few players remaining and lowered support from Riot overall, the game can continue to slowly improve. Because even though Legends of Runeterra wasn't the next big thing, it was enough. But sometimes, that doesn't cut it.
Oh,
Shout out and thanks to Clap.
Okay, wow, whoa, that video was great. This video was actually really good. Man, it was a difficult watch. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of sucks. I built this channel on Legends of Runeterra. My still top viewed video is the Legends of Runeterra video. You can watch it right now. It's a deck that I built. It was really cool, and I never managed to reach that, you know, that high again. So hopefully one day, right? But yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy. It was such a good time playing Legends of Runeterra, and I'm gonna miss this game. Unfortunately, it will never be back, and there's not gonna be any game like this. Not in terms of storytelling, not in terms of art, and not in terms of gameplay. And that makes me really, really sad. But thankfully, we have a lot of other games on the market, and yeah, we can still have some fun gaming. So, wow. Make sure to let me know what you guys think in the comments below. You know, it was difficult to watch, but I really want to know what you guys think about this topic. But yeah, that's pretty much all for now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.